Picture this. Whole streets of homes with for sale signs collecting dust, neighbors quietly packing U-Hauls in the middle of the night, and insurance premiums so insane they cost more than the mortgage. This isn't a movie set. It's Florida in 2025. Cities that once symbolized the American dream are starting to hollow out, turning into something eerily close to ghost towns. And the warning signs? They're popping up everywhere. But to really understand how Florida's housing boom flipped into a bust almost overnight, we need to look at the cities where the cracks are spreading fastest. And trust me, some of these places will shock you. Number 10. Port Charlotte. Port Charlotte used to be the kind of town you'd brag about discovering before everyone else. Affordable homes, waterfront access, and just enough small-town charm to lure in retirees and remote workers. But now, the vibe is totally different. Homes that once sold in a single weekend are sitting on the market for over 90 days. The median price here was $333, $242 in 2022. By 2025, it's fallen to just $285, $719, a 14% plunge. That means thousands of homeowners who bought during the frenzy are now underwater, owing more than their property is worth. Port Charlotte wasn't supposed to end up on this list. For years, it was one of the fastest-growing communities in Southwest Florida. Back in 2020, you could pick up a single-family home for around $220,000. By mid-2022, prices had skyrocketed to $333, $242. That's a 51% jump in just 2 years. Families rushed in, retirees cashed out their northern homes to settle here, and investors thought they'd found the perfect flip market. But today, that same median home is selling for $285, $719. That's a loss of almost $48,000 in equity in less than 3 years. For anyone who bought at the peak, it's devastating. Nearly 1 in 5 homeowners here are now considered underwater, meaning they owe more on their mortgage than their house is worth. The problem doesn't stop with falling values. Insurance has become a nightmare. Before Hurricane Ian, the average homeowner's insurance policy in Port Charlotte cost about $400 a year. In 2025, many residents are reporting annual premiums between $7,000 and $9,000, a 200% to 270% increase. That means people who once paid $200 a month are now paying closer to $700. For retirees on fixed incomes or working families balancing car loans and credit cards, those numbers are unsustainable. Number 9. Cape Coral. Cape Coral was the poster child of Florida's pandemic-era boom. By 2022, median prices hit $424, $767. But today, they've crashed down to $361, $761, a nearly $63,000 drop. The big culprit? Investors. At the peak, they flooded in, scooping up properties to flip or rent on Airbnb. Now they're rushing for the exits. Over 25% of current listings are investor-owned properties being dumped before prices slide even further. That's triggering a domino effect where everyone else is forced to slash their prices just to compete. Cape Coral wasn't just another Florida boomtown. It was the pandemic poster child. Between 2020 and 2022, the city's housing market went parabolic. Median home prices skyrocketed from $265,000 to over $424, $767, a jump of nearly 60% in just 2 years. For context, that's the kind of growth some cities don't see in a full decade. But here's the problem. That rise wasn't fueled by stable, long-term homeowners. Nearly 1 in 3 buyers in 2021 and 2022 were investors, many of them scooping up properties to flip or to cash in on Airbnb rentals. That kind of growth looks great on paper until the tide goes out. By early 2025, Cape Coral's median home value had collapsed to $361, $761. That's a $63,000 loss in equity for the average homeowner. For recent buyers who stretched into risky loans at 6 to 7% interest rates, that's devastating. And it's not stopping there. Local analysts warn prices could fall another 10% by late 2025, especially as inventory keeps piling up. Right now, over 800 homes are actively listed. That's nearly double the number from 2 years ago. Average days on market has jumped from just 10 days in 2021 to over 70 days in 2025. That shift alone shows demand has completely evaporated. Number 8. Northport. In 2022, Northport was one of the fastest-growing housing markets in the country. Median prices soared to $379,254. But 3 short years later, those homes are worth $321,224, a 15% drop. Northport used to be the dream of middle-class families who couldn't afford Sarasota but still wanted the Gulf Coast lifestyle. Between 2019 and 2022, home prices here skyrocketed by nearly 70%, with the median home price peaking at $379,254 in mid-2022. But today, in 2025, that same home is worth just $321,224, a 15% decline. That's the steepest drop the city has seen since the Great Recession. Now, let's break that down. If you bought a house here for $380,000 during the frenzy, your equity has already shrunk by almost $60,000 in just 3 years. And it's not stopping. Zillow reports that listings are sitting on the market for an average of 88 days, compared to just 14 days during the pandemic boom. So what happened? Builders. Northport issued over 7,000 new construction permits in 2021 and 2022, betting demand would never slow down. But when mortgage rates shot past 7%, the buyers disappeared almost overnight. By 2024, over 30% of pending sales collapsed before closing, often because buyers couldn't qualify for financing. That left developers holding entire subdivisions of unsold homes. And here's where it gets worse: foreclosures. In 2023, foreclosure filings jumped 42% year over year. In 2024, they spiked another 60%. Many of these are families who stretched themselves thin at the top of the market and now can't keep up with payments, especially with insurance premiums climbing past $5,000 per year. This flood of foreclosures adds even more inventory to an already bloated market. Right now, Northport's housing supply has more than tripled since the peak, with over 200 active listings compared to just 302 years ago. And basic economics tells us more supply plus less demand equals falling prices. And when entire neighborhoods start filling with empty or unsold homes, the decline doesn't just hit numbers, it hits the community itself. We're already seeing pockets of overgrown lawns, half-finished construction, and abandoned projects across the city. But as bad as Northport looks, the real question is, what happens when a city built on endless growth suddenly has no more buyers left? Number 7. Palm Bay. Palm Bay used to be the affordable alternative for middle-class families priced out of. Palm Bay used to be the escape hatch for Florida families. If you couldn't afford Orlando or Miami, you moved here. For years, it worked. Families got space, schools, and affordable homes. But by 2025, the cracks are impossible to ignore. Let's start with prices. In 2022, the median home in Palm Bay sold for $328,351. Today, it's slipped to $312,342. That's only a 5% drop. So why is Palm Bay on this list? Because the real problem isn't price, it's affordability. Take a typical buyer in Palm Bay. With a 7% interest rate on a $312,000 home, the monthly mortgage runs around $2,075. Add property taxes of $300 a month and insurance premiums that often top $4, $500 to $6, $500 annually. That's another $400 to $550 per month. Suddenly, that affordable Palm Bay house costs $2,800 plus per month to own. Now compare that to renting. The average 3-bedroom rental here is around $1.700 a month. That means buying costs more than $1.100 extra every single month, and that's before HOA fees. It's no wonder many buyers are walking away. Why pay $2.800 when you can rent the same house for $1.700? Investors are seeing the same math. Airbnb occupancy rates in Palm Bay fell below 45% in 2024, and nightly rates dropped 20% year over year. For many short-term landlords, that means negative cash flow. Nearly 22% of investor-owned homes are now back on the market, many at discounts just to cut losses. And here's the kicker. Listings are stacking up. Active inventory is up 38% year over year, and homes are sitting for 70-plus days before selling, triple what they were during the boom. So while Palm Bay's price drop looks small on paper, the underlying math shows a market where buyers won't buy, landlords can't profit, and homeowners are paying double what renters pay. That imbalance is exactly why Palm Bay makes this list, and why the story could get much uglier in the months ahead. Number 6. Port St. Lucie. Port St. Lucie wasn't just another Florida suburb. It was one of the fastest-growing cities in the entire United States during the 2010s. Between 2010 and 2020, the population exploded by nearly 50%, surging past 200,000 residents. Families came here chasing affordability. Retirees came for the sunshine, and out-of-state buyers flooded in with cash, driving the median home price to $405,010 in 2022. But here's the problem. The demand that fueled that boom is collapsing fast. By 2025, the median home price has slipped to $375,513, a decline of almost $30,000 in just 3 years. That's nearly an 8% drop, and it's only accelerating. Meanwhile, the city's inventory has surged by 45% year over year. More homes are on the market, but fewer buyers are around to take them. Pending sales are falling apart at an alarming rate. 29% of all deals collapsed in 2024 before even reaching closing. That's not just a statistic, that's thousands of families backing out because they realized they couldn't afford the math anymore. And then come the hidden costs. HOA fees have jumped dramatically. Some neighborhoods that charged $80 per month a few years ago now demand $200 to $250. Insurance? Even worse. Homeowners report premiums of $5,000 to $7,000 annually, more than doubling since 2020. For many middle-class families, their monthly housing expenses are now $600 to $800 higher than just a few years ago. Here's what that means. If you bought in 2022 with a typical mortgage, insurance, and HOA, your housing costs may have risen by 30 to 40% without your income rising at all. No wonder so many residents are listing their homes or walking away entirely, and that's why Port St. Lucie is on this list. It's not just that prices are dipping. It's that the entire affordability equation is breaking down. Buyers can't afford to enter, owners can't afford to stay, and investors can't make the numbers work. When all three of those forces collapse at once, a market is in serious danger of hollowing out. Number 5. Point Siana. Point Siana was once the poster child for affordable suburban living in Florida. Families could buy a home for just over $320,000 and still have money left for a life outside the mortgage. But today, the picture is very different. Median home prices have dropped from $322, $450 in 2022 to $290, $655 in 2025, a sharp 9.7% decline. That might sound modest at first glance, but for a city built on affordability, it's devastating. The insurance crisis here is even more alarming. In certain flood and storm-prone zones, monthly homeowners insurance now ranges between $500 and $800. That's higher than what many families pay on their principal and interest combined. For a working family trying to make ends meet, owning a home in Point Siana has become financially impossible. Investors are feeling the pain too. Rental income can no longer keep pace with skyrocketing insurance and mortgage costs. Rents haven't risen enough to cover these expenses, and vacancies are creeping higher. Landlords are slashing rents, offering incentives like first-month free deals or abandoning properties altogether. Siana is also facing declining property tax assessments. Local governments have started adjusting tax rolls downward because homes are no longer worth what they were just 3 years ago. That's a rarely seen but extremely telling indicator. When even city assessors acknowledge a market is in retreat, you know the foundation is cracking. Add to this the massive special assessments issued by HOAs, often reaching into the thousands, to cover storm damage and infrastructure repairs. Many homeowners are now forced to pay these unexpected costs or risk liens on their properties. Days on market have also ballooned. Homes that sold in just 30 to 40 days back in 2022 now sit idle for over 70 days. Neighborhoods that were once vibrant are growing quiet as families get priced out and walk away. Number 4. Deltona. Deltona used to be the quiet, affordable suburb where families could still snag a decent home without breaking the bank. It offered proximity to Orlando, Daytona, and Florida's East Coast beaches, all within reach of a modest mortgage. But 2025 is telling a very different story. Back in 2022, the median home price in Deltona was $340,178. Fast forward 3 years, and that number has plunged to $298,655, a $41,500 loss, or roughly 12.2% down. That's more than just a dip. For a city that's largely middle class, this kind of decline erases the equity that many homeowners had counted on, leaving families struggling to keep their homes afloat. Population decline is fueling the slide. Families who once filled local schools and neighborhood parks are leaving, citing skyrocketing insurance premiums, sometimes over $6,000 annually, and HOA fees that have jumped 40% or more in some subdivisions. The math no longer works for working-class households. Days on market tell the same story. Homes that sold in around 30 days in 2022 are now lingering over 75 days, often with multiple price reductions. Pending sales aren't just slowing, they're collapsing. In early 2025 alone, 1 in 4 deals fell through, whether because of financing hurdles, low appraisals, or buyer hesitation. Investors are retreating too. Those who once poured money into Deltona for rental or flipping opportunities are now dumping properties back onto the market. The result: swelling inventory, falling prices, and neighborhoods that feel emptier than ever. If you drive through certain subdivisions, the warning signs are obvious: shuttered windows, quiet streets, and for sale signs standing longer than the homes have been lived in. Deltona may still look like a safe suburban haven, but the numbers: home values down 12%, insurance skyrocketing, pending sales collapsing, and population leaving make it clear why this city is one of Florida's biggest housing caution zones in 2025. Number 3. Ocala. Ocala, once known for its wide open land, affordable homes, and equestrian farms, is now showing signs of serious financial stress. Back in 2022, the median home price in the city was $280,010, already attracting families and retirees looking for an escape from Florida's pricier metros. But by 2025, that number has dropped to $255,510, a loss of $24,500, or nearly 9% off the peak. For homeowners who bought during the pandemic surge, this isn't just a dip, it's the start of a negative equity crisis. Insurance is hitting residents hard. In 2022, the average homeowner in Marion County paid around $2,000 per year for property insurance. Today, those same policies cost between $5,500 and $6,000. And for older homes or properties outside city limits, premiums can go even higher. That's a 150 to 200% increase in just 3 years. For many families, housing costs now exceed $3,000 a month when you combine mortgage, insurance, and taxes, numbers that make buying here feel impossible. Construction activity, once a sign of growth, has turned into a warning signal. Several new home communities have been paused midway through development, leaving empty lots and half-built structures scattered across Ocala's outskirts. Builders who counted on steady buyer demand are now retreating. In some neighborhoods, over 20% of homes are unsold, with the average days on market climbing from 30 days in 2022 to over 80 days in 2025. That's nearly triple the time it took to sell just 3 years ago. Foreclosures are rising as well. Homeowners who purchased at peak prices are struggling to pay their mortgages, especially with skyrocketing insurance and HOA fees. Foreclosure filings in Marion County have increased by over 40% year over year, and pending sales are falling through at alarming rates. Even local authorities are acknowledging the trend. Property tax assessments are being adjusted downward to reflect sliding home values. Ocala may still have horse farms, natural springs, and small-town charm, but the financial foundations are eroding fast. The combination of declining home values, soaring insurance premiums, stalled construction, rising foreclosures, and slower population growth is exactly why Ocala has earned its place on this list. And if trends continue, this rural escape could quickly join the growing number of Florida cities flirting with ghost town status. Number 2. Tampa. Tampa was once the crown jewel of Florida's real estate boom. In 2022, the median home price here sat at $383,410. Fast forward to 2025, and that number has dropped to $360,013, a decline of over $23,000. That may seem small at first glance, but in a fast-moving metro like Tampa, that slide represents tens of thousands of homeowners suddenly losing equity, especially those who bought at peak prices during the pandemic-fueled rush. The problem isn't just falling prices. Housing inventory has exploded. Active listings have increased by more than 55% year over year, meaning homes that would have sold in 2 weeks in 2022 are now sitting on the market for 75 to 90 days. Sellers are slashing prices anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 just to attract buyers. And even then, offers are slow to come. Mortgage rates are another massive factor. With rates hovering around 7.5%, many first-time buyers are being priced out entirely. Pending sales are collapsing, down 28% in the first quarter of 2025, as financing deals fall through or buyers back out at the last minute. Investors who once propped up Tampa's housing market with short-term rentals and flips are now bailing. Airbnb hosts are dumping properties, long-term landlords are struggling to break even, and vacancy rates are climbing. Some neighborhoods are seeing double-digit increases in homes sitting empty, a rare but ominous indicator in such a high-demand city. Even areas previously considered untouchable are showing cracks. Median prices in South Tampa neighborhoods like Palma Seca and Hyde Park are down 6 to 8%, while fast-growing suburbs like Westchase are seeing a 10% spike in days on market. And with Tampa's job growth slowing compared to other metros, the pipeline of new buyers isn't strong enough to absorb all the excess inventory. All of this adds up to one undeniable truth. Tampa isn't just cooling off, it's starting to crack. And the investor flight, coupled with soaring inventory and rising financing costs, could turn what was once Florida's hottest real estate market into one of its next cautionary tales. Number 1. Winter Haven. Winter Haven used to be one of those hidden gems of Central Florida. Affordable lakeside homes, family-friendly neighborhoods, and just far enough from Orlando's chaos to feel like a true retreat. Back in 2022, the median home price here was $300,205, making it accessible to middle-class buyers looking for space and comfort. But in 2025, that number has dropped to $275,513, and $24,692 decline, or roughly 8.2%. That might sound modest compared to some other cities, but the real alarm bells come when you look under the surface. First, insurance costs are spiraling out of control. Homeowners near lakes or older properties are now paying $600 to $800 per month in homeowners insurance alone, sometimes more than the principal and interest combined. That's unsustainable. especially for families already juggling mortgage payments, utilities, and everyday expenses. It's one of the main reasons Winter Haven is seeing its population slow down for the first time in decades. In 2024, the city experienced a net outflow of residents, a rare and worrying trend. People are moving away, citing unaffordable living costs and skyrocketing insurance. Streets that once buzzed with activity are now eerily quiet. Then there's the supply issue. Builders who went all in during the pandemic boom are now stuck with rows of unsold homes. In some of the newest subdivisions, homes are sitting for 90 days or more, forcing sellers to slash prices by $20,000 or more, offer free upgrades, or provide cash incentives just to attract buyers. Financing deals are falling through at an alarming rate, with stricter lender requirements and higher down payments keeping potential buyers on the sidelines. And it doesn't stop there. Homeowners are getting hit with special assessments for storm damage repairs, sometimes costing thousands of dollars per household. On top of that, some properties are now being listed below 2020 prices, a clear signal that the market is backtracking nearly 5 years. Mortgage lenders, appraisers, and investors are all adjusting their expectations downward, creating a cycle where declining home values, rising costs, and empty properties feed on each other. Pending sales are collapsing as well. Roughly 30% of deals that went under contract in early 2025 fell through, either due to financing issues, low appraisals, or buyers backing out. That's a huge number for a city that relied heavily on first-time buyers and investor activity to keep the market healthy. Winter Haven isn't just another city with falling prices. It's showing multiple housing crash indicators simultaneously. A declining population, insurance costs exceeding mortgage payments, surging days on market, widespread special assessments, and homes being listed below pre-boom prices. Put together, these factors make Winter Haven the clearest example of a Florida city teetering on the edge of a full-blown housing crisis.